Well, that was an absolute disaster last night. Welcome in. Good morning. Happy Thursday. I wish it was Friday. I need an extra day for the weekend after subjecting myself to that second Republican debate last night. I mean, you want to talk about nights and moments that make you want to bang your head against the wall? That was it. And, you know, I did pour myself a glass of Union Horse whiskey last night, a nice local brand here in the Kansas City area. The problem is I should have had 3 more of them. That was my problem. I did a disservice to myself, John.
Well, I'm here to report that the bottom of America's barrel got a little deeper as well on America's Got Talent as well. A dog act won over a blind girl that was a great singer. I think she was autistic maybe even, and all these great dance acts. Well, I said, I know what you're doing, and this represents the opposite end of it here. But
well, I'll just say this. I should have watched America's Got Talent last night because there might have been a lot more talent on the dogs on stage than there were with the candidates last night.
There is that.
Oh, my goodness. And it all got off to a terrible start. I should have seen this coming. Here's Stuart Varney, Fox Business, his big moment in the sun, opening up the second GOP debate from the late Reagan Library, and the guy totally soils himself.
I'm Stuart Varney of Fox Business, and I am thrilled to be sitting alongside my co-moderators, Fox News Channel Dana Perino and Ilya Calderon, Univision.
Good evening. Thank you, Stuart.
Oh, my goodness. Stuart Varney. I've never really had an opinion on Stuart Varney, but there he is. Big moment, biggest moment of his career. You got tens of millions of people watching the guy, and he opens up the debate, and I don't know if he blanked on the Univision anchor's name or he just, got lost in the teleprompter. I don't know what it was. But last night, I literally tweeted right after that. I put this up. I said, I hope everybody ends up having a better night than Stuart Varney. Here's the thing. I was hoping that was going to be tongue-in-cheek, and it turns out instead it was a harbinger of things to come. It was all downhill from there. I mean, that was arguably one of the better moments of the night. That's how bad it was last night. It was overproduced by Fox News. They started off the debate, and they did their intro, and every anchor got to say a sentence like it was first grade again. You say your sentence, then you say your sentence, then you say your sentence. This big grandiose introduction where everyone's speaking for a couple of sentences, telling what's going to go on tonight. Just get to the damn debate. No one's there to see you. No one. We're there to listen to the candidates who are, the people actually running for president of the United States. And then it took until 8:15 local time for the guy on stage who is leading the national polls. Obviously, Donald Trump is leading the polls. He was not there. It took him until 8:15 for the guy on stage who's in first place to say a word, that being Ron DeSantis. I'm sitting there and I'm like, why am I listening to Chris Christie, who's polling at 2%, in the first 10 minutes of this thing, which is when you're going to have the most captive audience, instead of, the guy who's actually in second place? Now, I know there's a massive gap between Trump and everybody else, but still, you can only work with what you got. And last night, I'm watching this thing. I'm like, is Ron DeSantis there? Is there a reason that the guy who's, leading the polls is not getting asked a question in the first 10 minutes of this debate? While I listen to Tim Scott and, Mike Pence with his corny lines and everything else going on in this debate? Where's the guy who's actually, maybe has a chance in these early states? What is going on here? And the length of the questions. One thing we can all work on, those of us who interview people for a living, is asking shorter questions. I'll go back and I listen to my interviews and I'm like, you could have shortened that question by 15 seconds. And, we try to do it the best we can. None of us are perfect. But if there's ever a time when you're going to have concise questions, it's when you've got 6 people on stage who are vying for a major party's presidential nomination. Instead, you get these long-winded, pre-produced questions Let me ask you about the border there, Doug Bergrum. And then we get 17 different stats on the border. Hey, the people watching this debate are Republican voters. They understand the border's a mess. Just ask a question. It shouldn't take you more than 10 seconds. And then, you get the moderators breaking out the civility bell on these candidates. I wanted a damn civility bell on the moderators. That's what I wanted to hear. Give me a little civility bell. Thank you very much. Yeah, I wanted a civility bell against the moderators. When their questions became too long, I was going to start just banging the bell on them because that was ridiculous. So the biggest loser last night was Fox News. There's no doubt about that. They came out looking awful with that debate last night. It was just horrific on so many levels. And the other big loser, Ron DeSantis. I hate to say it, but Ron DeSantis may have officially sunk his presidential campaign last night. And part of it's not his fault, but even when he had a chance to speak, even when he was given the opportunity, it was just awkward. It was corny. It was just too much. Here's a prime example of Ron DeSantis, the first thing he said, and this is how he ended his comments.
When they send me a bloating spending bill that's going to cause your prices to go up, I'm going to take out this veto pen and I'm going to send it right back to them.
And he's got this pen in his hand. This is my veto pen. Oh, my goodness, dude. It's not 1996. Holy cow. I mean, can you believe it? Can you believe how many overpaid consultants it took to write a line like that just totally fell flat? Where do they find these people? I'm going to go do that for a living. Something tells me it probably pays pretty darn well considering they all live in penthouses in Washington, D.C., and those are the lines that you're writing for major presidential candidates. Here's my veto pen. And when I'm in office, I will take this veto pen and I will veto it and I will send it back on behalf of you, the American people.
Nobody cares.
It was just painful. Mike Pence, he's toast too. Frankly, the biggest winner last night was the guy who was not there, Donald Trump. Donald Trump was in Michigan, and Donald Trump comes out looking like he is going to be the guy. There was nothing last night that changed what's at this point looking incredibly likely and more likely by the day. That we are going to get Donald Trump as the nominee. We are going to get Joe Biden running for re-election unless, something that we can't predict ends up happening. And it is going to be a repeat of 2020. And by the way, what do most Americans say about that? Most Americans say about a repeat of 2020, they dread it. And I don't blame you one bit. There's a part of me that dreads a rematch as well. And that's not an indictment on Trump or anything like that. But it brings back a lot of memories from a year that many of us want to forget. We can forget, we shouldn't forget, but we want to forget. And as I turned off the TV last night about 20 minutes early before it ended because I couldn't take it anymore, I said, you know what? We're getting the rematch. 913-408-7710. As we get your reaction throughout the morning here on KCMO Talk Radio. Welcome in. It is 6:13 on a Thursday post-debate morning on KCMO Talk Radio. We've got a lot of folks that we're going to get to here, but you as well. So whether it's the text line, the phone line, social media, we'll be getting your reaction all morning long. Now, Trump was in Michigan, of course. He did a rally last night, so we'll be hearing from him as well here on KCMO. Yeah, my head's hurting, and it's not from the extra bourbon that I ended up drinking last night. I promise you that's not why. It's hurting because I subjected myself to that debate. And I didn't know what my expectations were going into it. I never have very high expectations, especially when the guy who's up by 30 points in the polls isn't going to be there. But I still thought it could be a substantive debate, conversation between people who want to be the leader of the free world. Instead, it was just Carnival Barker 101, Stuart Varney soiling himself out of the gates, and people yelling over each other. And I didn't even get to this about Fox. Let me save it. I did enough on Fox for now. Because meantime, Donald Trump was in Michigan. And he was talking to UAW workers and was making his pitch to blue-collar folks in Michigan. Obviously, one of Donald Trump's appeals over the last couple of election cycles, it worked better in 16 than in 20. But in 16, he broke through that so-called blue wall in the upper Midwest, right? He broke through the blue wall in Ohio. Ohio's become pretty red, but still, it used to be kind of a swing-ish state. Pennsylvania, Michigan. I mean, he had success in those places where Republicans had not had success in a very long time. Now, a large part of that was because Donald Trump appeals to a blue-collar worker and just a working stiff, like many of us are, in a way that other Republicans like Mitt Romney never did and never could, frankly. But it's also because of how, Democratic Party, I should say the power brokers in the Democratic Party, have lost their mind. It's the old saying of the Democratic Party didn't leave many of you, where you didn't leave the Democratic Party, the party left you, right? That's the old saying. And Donald Trump and the Republican Party are wise to try to take advantage of that. So Trump decides, I'm not going to the debate. No reason for me to go there. I don't blame him, by the way. I mean, I would have liked him to have been there. There are a lot of questions I would have loved to have heard him answer that were asked last night. But from a strategic perspective, I understand why he's not there. So instead, he's in Michigan, and he's talking to the folks, some of whom are on strike. And the most important point that Donald Trump made last night was this when talking about electric vehicles and how the administration that claims it's pro-union and pro-worker and pro-this and pro-that are forcing policies onto these car companies that in large part are hurting them, hurting the workers, and hurting future job prospects.
In the case of Biden, he's coming back to electric vehicles. Now he hasn't even left yet. So we're talking about, but yeah, maybe someday soon he's going to leave because he wants to get more votes. But just remember, he's coming back. They always go back to their original thought. That's where they are. I don't know why, but that's where they are. Biden's mandate isn't a government regulation. It's a government assassination of your jobs and of your industry. The auto industry is being assassinated. And it makes no difference what you get. I don't care what you get in the next 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 5 weeks. They're going to be closing up and they're going to be building those cars in China and other places. It's a hit job on Michigan and on Detroit, and that's not sustainable.
That was Trump last night. And by the way, when he says that, that is exactly why UAW President Shawn Fain wants no part of Donald Trump and wants nothing to do with Donald Trump. Because Shawn Fain has proven himself, the UAW president, to be nothing but a political activist on behalf of Joe Biden's party. So when Donald Trump shows up in Michigan and starts saying things like that, well, whoa, that's not the kind of script that a guy like Shawn Fain wants to be around. That's why instead you get this statement from Shawn Fain on Donald Trump's visit last night saying, quote, every fiber of our union is being poured into the fighting the billionaire class and an economy that enriches people like Donald Trump at the expense of workers. We can't keep electing billionaires and millionaires that don't have any understanding of what it is like to live paycheck to paycheck and struggle to get by and expecting them to solve the problems of the working class. That was the statement from Shawn Fain, the UAW president, on Donald Trump coming to Michigan last night to talk to UAW members. And that was the moment, as if there was any more evidence that we needed. But that was the moment when Shawn Fain showed his true colors, as if there was ever a doubt. You're telling me that the guy who's complaining about billionaires and millionaires is going to stand side by side with a president who is pushing policy that hurts his workers, hurts the companies that his workers work for, and, by the way, has a kid bagman who's earned tens of millions of dollars, and now we find out a couple of days ago had Pop's home address as one of the places to wire transfer $260,000 from Chinese nationals. So that guy is worthy of Shawn Fain standing side by side with. But Trump, no, we can't. No, we couldn't possibly have that, right? No, what? You're crazy. He's just a billionaire. We got to fight against guys like Trump. yeah, Trump is a billionaire. You know, he actually developed things for a living, built companies, did stuff like that we would love to have more of in Washington, D.C., not less of. Instead, what do we get? We get attorneys and bureaucrats. That's been a great run for the last 20, 25 years on that front. We don't have as many veterans. We don't have as many businessmen as we should. Instead, we get attorneys. And we get people who have worked their way up the bureaucratic ladder for their entire adult lives and haven't gotten their hands dirty, haven't, in too many cases, hired, haven't created a single job. And then you wonder how we are where we are today. Well, that's part of the reason, by the way. So Trump's up there yesterday spitting some facts in Michigan. The UAW president's nowhere to be found. I mean, you couldn't find that guy anywhere last night. I don't even know if he was in the state where Trump was. But Trump was just telling the truth, man. He was just doing it the way it's got to be done. And he was on fire. You know, at one point I was toggling back and forth between Trump and the debate because the debate was just such a disaster to watch. 913-408-7710, 627 on a post-debate Thursday morning on KCMO Talk Radio. The mayor of Kansas City is 1 hour away. I don't think we'll get to much debate talk with Quentin Lucas. I doubt he was watching. He was too busy schmoozing the first lady. She was here yesterday. Did you see those pictures? I still want to know who was changing Grandpa's diaper. We'll get to that visit coming up next. Pete Mundo on KCMO. So is this the part where I get to play the victim card? Because that's what we do, right? In America in 2023, we just, if something's not going our way, we just say it's because, well, people are racist, people don't want us, people don't like us, we're the victim. That's what I'm understood to believe. So here's what I'm going to do, right? I'm going to say that America is not ready for an Italian-American president.
Oh, hey.
Yes, that's what I'm going to claim. Because Ron DeSantis continues to fall in the polls. You know, there's never been an Italian-American president. Can you believe that, by the way? I mean, you know, we've obviously, we still talk about we don't have the first female president. There's never been an Italian-American who's been president of the United States. Despite the fact that you've got, you know, millions and millions and millions of Italian-Americans in this country. Not one. We always talk about subgroups, right? First black president. We don't have the first female president yet. When that's coming. Well, Ron DeSantis is trying to become the first Italian-American president, and it doesn't look like it's going to happen. And last night was not a good night for him. Donald Trump had the best night last night, and he wasn't there because everybody else was such a disaster and that debate was such an absolute mess. So Trump comes out a winner. DeSantis has a bad night. And I'm just sitting here making the claim that America is not ready for an Italian-American to be in the White House, John. That's the only conclusion to come to.
Yeah, seemingly so. It's like in America's Got Talent when they have a tour. I'm also waiting for the Chris Christie, Mike Pence comedy jam to spin off of this as well. So no, you're right. There's got to be a reason why America doesn't have DeSantis as the leading.
It's obviously because of his Italian heritage, right? Because that's what we're told all the time.
Like, the system is holding him back.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, that's what we hear all the time.
Being repressed.
Kamala Harris, right? Oh, America's just not ready for a black female to be the nominee, never mind president. She gets asked about that all the time. Right? No, the reason that people don't want Kamala in the White House after spending the last 2.5 years as Joe Biden's VP is because, well, she's incredibly unlikable and not very bright. That's why. But it's always about race or gender or background or whatever. I mean, Hillary Clinton used that after losing to Trump. Oh, America just wasn't ready for the first female president. Oh, wasn't ready. No, it wasn't the fact that you were corrupt. It wasn't the fact that, you know, Trump had a better message to working class voters. It wasn't about the fact that he was fresh and interesting and funny, everything that you're not. It was because you're a woman, so we're told. So I'm here to declare that Ron DeSantis, who does not look like he's going to be the nominee, is only not the nominee because, well, America's not ready for the first Italian-American to be in the White House. That's the only conclusion to come to. It can't be that he's awkward. It can't be that he's bad in debate settings. It can't be that he spent too much time talking culture stuff versus things that, impact everyday American lives. It can't be because of any of that. His cheesy lines in the debate like this last night.
When they send me a bloating spending bill that's going to cause your prices to go up, I'm going to take out this veto pen and I'm going to send it right back to them.
It can't be because of cheesy lines like that, John.
Well, since he's Italian-American, maybe he means V-I-T-O, veto. Veto on his sunny spin.
It's got to be because, and I say this as a fellow Italian-American, he just can't catch a break, man. Us Italians, no one wants us in the White House, I guess.
Right.
It's the only conclusion to come to. Because, that's what other folks do, so why can't DeSantis start doing that? That's the way of the world these days, right?
Came after Columbus.
Yeah. Who would have thought? Columbus, the closest we ever got. Rudy Giuliani in 2008, probably the closest we ever got at this point. Rudy was running hot there for a little bit, and then, boy, it's been a rough go for him lately, huh? Well, coming up, the mayor of Kansas City, Quentin Lucas, will join us. He welcomed the First Lady to Kansas City yesterday. He's also upset because of what the media is not covering in this town, supposedly. We'll get to that with him coming up next on KCMO. Woo! Last night, I couldn't get through it. With about 20 minutes left, I said, you know what? I got the 4 o'clock alarm going off. I'm done. I'm out. See you later. Goodbye. I've seen enough. An hour and 40 minutes was plenty from that disaster of a debate last night. The biggest winner is Donald Trump. Yes, I know he wasn't there. He wasn't on the stage. But last night was nothing but good for Donald Trump because Donald Trump was in Michigan, was talking to the UAW folks while a complete circus was breaking out at the Reagan Library. Ronnie had to be rolling around in his grave last night watching that thing take place in his library. It was it was horrible. It didn't work for anybody. The moderators for Fox did a terrible job, which I'll get to here coming up. But I just couldn't believe what I was watching. I thought the first one was bad. I thought the moderators lost control of the first one. Last night was even worse. Now, if you want a winner who was on the stage last night, and this is somebody who, if you've heard me talk on this show, you know that as much as I like what Vivek Ramaswamy says, I can't help but think he feels like a used car salesman. Like, he basically says things that Ron DeSantis has done, but to his credit, he says it a lot better than Ron DeSantis says it, and DeSantis has done it. So then it's the job of the voter to say, okay, one guy's done it, one guy says it really well, which one do I want? Most people would say I want the guy that actually has done the job, but Vivek sounds good. He sounds smooth. And he did have some good moments last night. Clearly, Vivek Ramaswamy, the feedback that his people got in polls that were likely done after the first debate is that he came off like a smug, know-it-all, obnoxious newcomer. But like not in a Trumpian, charming way. Whether you like it or not, Trump does have an element of charm to him. Vivek in that first one, he had no charm. He just came off obnoxious. Well, he calmed that down quite a bit last night. He was quite a bit more endearing. And his best line of the night came when he was talking about the UAW fiasco.
So I understand that hardship is not a choice, but victimhood is a choice. And we choose to be victorious in the United States of America. You know what? If I was giving advice to those workers, I would say go picket in front of the White House in Washington, D.C. That's really where the protest needs to be. Disastrous economic policies that have driven up prices, that have driven up interest rates and mortgage rates. At the same time, wages remaining stagnant. What we need is to deliver economic growth in this country. Unlock American energy. Drill, frack, burn coal, embrace nuclear energy, put people back to work by no longer paying them more money to stay at home.
Thank you. Gosh.
Woo!
Go picket in front of the White House. That is the line of the night to me from Vivek Ramaswamy. Talking about how the dollar's not going as far. Go picket in front of the White House. That was a great line. Instead, what is the UAW doing, by the way? Trump's there last night. And Sean Fain, the UAW president, is like, we don't need billionaires and millionaires around here. We need an economy that works for the workers. Meantime, the guy is standing arm in arm with Joe Biden 2 days ago. Or was that yesterday afternoon? Gosh, this week is a mess for a multitude of reasons. Whatever that was this week, he's standing shoulder to shoulder with a guy who is driving up the cost of living exponentially for every American over the last 2.5 years. And Sean Fain thinks that's his guy? You think that's the guy that's looking out for you? Why? Because he says he's pro-union? Because he calls himself Scranton Joe? You got to be kidding me. So Vivek had himself, I thought, a pretty darn good evening, including when he came up, not that he came up with this idea, but he brought up social media bans for those 16 and under, something I've been advocating for a very long time, and I don't think that's a partisan issue. I don't believe that if you are under 16, you should be on social media. We know how addictive it is. We know that now it's resulted in bullying and kids getting deals done, and there's nothing good that comes out of it. It's highly addictive. We need to get our children off of social media. And some of you are of the belief that, well, that's my job as a parent. Okay, and I can respect that, but you know what? We don't let kids drink alcohol. We don't let them smoke. We don't let them rent cars till certain ages. We have all these rules of things children cannot do because their brains are not developed enough to the point to being allowed to do it. Social media should fall into that same category. And Vivek Ramaswamy last night told this story about a couple that he met in Iowa that lost their child to fentanyl, and he tied that into social media bans. And it was eerily reminiscent to a story, of course, we've been following very closely here in the Kansas City area, right? So let's play Vivek Ramaswamy's cut and then tie it back here locally.
I met family in Iowa, two parents, Kathy and Derek. They lost their son, Sebastian, 17 years old. He bought Percocet on Snapchat, and then he died. Why did he die? Because it was laced with fentanyl. That is closer to bioterrorism, not a drug overdose. That is poisoning. So it is our job to make sure that never happens. But it's also our job to make sure that 17-year-olds don't turn to Percocet via Snapchat. We have to bring back mental health care in this country, not with pump and pharmaceuticals, but with faith-based approaches that restore purpose and meaning in the next generation of Americans. Many of them are getting it through social media. And this isn't a Republican point or a Democrat point, but if you're 16 years old or under, you should not be using an addictive social media product, period. This is something that we can both agree on, and we can revive both the mental health of this country while stopping the fentanyl epidemic that will kill more people this year than who died on 9/11. And I refuse to be a passive bystander sitting in the White House like the hollowed out husk of a current president we have. We will step up and address this problem to stand for Americans and our children.
Hollowed out husk of a current president. What a line. Oh, my goodness. So I'm listening to Vivek lay that out, and I'm thinking back here to obviously a tragic story that's got a lot of local attention over the last couple of years, and that is the poisoning of Cooper Davis. Mill Valley High School junior, he died due to a fentanyl poisoning. Very similar story. Thought he was taking a Percocet. It was laced with fentanyl, and it killed him. And now his mother, Libby, and the entire family, they've been on this show, and they promoted a lot of what they're doing. They are very active in the community and trying to fight, against fentanyl and trying to, make sure that social media companies are involved and being held accountable, however they can be involved and held accountable. And Roger Marshall's pushing a lot of that. This is bipartisan stuff to me. I get it. There's a lot of things that you can break down along party lines. This is not one of them. And Vivek was the only one to bring that up last night. And there are way too many stories like that. This is not like the crack epidemic of 35 years ago. That's not what this is. These are young kids trafficking drugs on social media that they think are Percocets and are killing them because they're being laced with fentanyl by drug dealers who are making this stuff in China, getting it to Mexico, and flooding it across the southern border. And it's in every community. This is not a rich, poor, white, black, Democrat, Republican thing. It is impacting every single community in Kansas City and around the country. And it should be getting far more attention than it is. And Vivek brought it up last night, and it was very well said and very well done. And I hope that topic gets more attention. But by the way, Fox News was just doing awful work last night on this front. So they would bring up like, hey, let's talk about the fentanyl crisis. And then one or two people would get to answer that question. And then it would be like, you know what? Let's talk about education reform. One or two people get to answer that question. And it's like, can we get 10 minutes where everyone gets a minute or so on each topic? And there was no flow from topic to topic either. That was the other problem. It was like, all right, we're going to talk about the economy. Then we're going to talk about immigration. Then we're going to talk about, NFL quarterbacks from the 1990s. Then we're going to transition back into something like fentanyl. And then, by the way, have we talked about, top movie stars from the early 2000s? Can we do that? And can you just stick to topics and have a damn flow to these things? Instead, you got Stuart Varney from Fox Business soiling himself at the Open.
I'm Stuart Varney of Fox Business, and I am thrilled to be sitting alongside my co-moderators, Fox News Channel Dana Perino and Ilya Calderon, Univision.
Good evening. Thank you, Stuart.
That was a perfect summary of the night right there. Stuart Varney opening up and screwing up the teleprompter. Taking lessons from Biden, apparently, on that front. 8:22. Welcome in on a Thursday morning, post-election day, and post-election day, post-debate day. We still got 15 months for that. Don't worry. Gosh. Oh, my goodness. At this point, I'm like many of you, by the way, where you see these polls that come out, and they say that what are Americans feeling about next year's election? It's dread. It's just, that's why, all right, today, post-debate morning, we're going to talk a lot about it, but it looks like, until proven otherwise, we're getting the 2020 rematch that, by the way, most Americans don't want, but appears inevitable. So outside of days like today, there's not going to be a lot to say on any of this for the next few months. So, I get it this morning. Tens of millions of people tuned in last night. We're going to be talking about it. We're going to be covering it. But it's not something that is going to be a big part of the next few months, if I were guessing, when it comes to content, because, Biden's going to be there, barring something unforeseen. And, Trump's sitting there with 30-point leads in the polls. So what do you got then? You got nothing else to show for it. But I will say this, as I'm watching last night, there were 6 people on the stage. And they all seemed like very fine people in their own rights. But I do not understand how we end up at a point where Doug Burgum, governor of North Dakota, is still on that stage. I felt bad for the guy because I'm watching him up there, and everyone knows that he's wasting the time that we could be hearing from somebody else. And he's talking fast, and he's rushing the way he's speaking because he knows no one's there to hear him. And I'm like, how big does your ego have to be to get yourself on that debate stage? And by the way, he bought donors to get on that debate stage, in case you didn't know that. He was doing this thing where he was basically saying, if you donate $1 to my campaign, I'll give you a $20 gift card or something like that. He just Google that. He was doing that, this guy, Doug Burgum. He's independently wealthy, very wealthy, obviously. And to get to the donor threshold, you had to have, I think it was like 40,000 individual donors. He was saying, if you donate $1 to me, I'll hook you up with a $20 gift card as a way to basically buy donors. How that's legal, I don't know, but he got away with it. So he gets on the debate stage last night, and he's saying stuff like this, which is fine, but once again, why are we doing this?
The police have become the bad guys when they're the one. There's all these jobs available in America. Why would you be a policeman if people don't even respect them? Every time I see a policeman, the first thing I say is thank you. And so does everybody else in my family and most of the people in our state, because they know we have to respect the people that are out there defending us every single day.
Okay. Great. You like the cops. So does everybody else on that stage. You say hi to cops. You thank cops when you see them. Great. A lot of us do that. Why are we listening to you? Why? Why are we doing this? Doug Burgum, why are you doing this to yourself? It's like I saw Asa Hutchinson, the former governor of Arkansas. He put up that he didn't make the debate stage, but he's going to press on with his candidacy. Can these guys find a hobby? Can you pick up golf? I mean, can you find a charity you like and join the board and get on there and, help out folks in need? Can you give back? Can you do something other than waste the people's time? Asa Hutchinson putting this up the other day on his social media page. I understand the RNC and the media are trying to reduce the number of candidates, but I measure success based on the response I receive in early primary states like Iowa and New Hampshire. My goal is to increase my polling numbers to 4% in an early state before Thanksgiving. Wow. You want to get to 4% by Thanksgiving. That's, wow, you really shooting for the stars there, Asa. Is it Asa? Is it Asa? What is it? I don't even know anymore. I don't even know what the guy's name is. Might have to change his name based on how he's acting. All I know is this. These are the guys. It's like, y'all know people at work, at the office, or in sports, by the way. The guys that hanging on, 38, 39, 40 some odd years old. It's like, dude, you lost the fastball. You lost the speed. Go home. Be with your family. Play golf. Find a charity you like. Give back to them. But you got to leave. It's time to go. And that's true for Asa Hutchinson. Long overdue. That's true for Doug Burgum, who had no point being on the stage last night. It's true for Chris Krispy Kreme Christie last night.
And Donald Trump hides behind the walls of his golf clubs and won't show up here to answer questions like all the rest of us are up here to answer. He put $7 trillion on the debt. He should be in this room to answer those questions for the people you talk about who are suffering.
Why are we doing this, Chris Christie? Why? I just can't figure it out, man. Ego's a funny thing. So it's about a minute 30 exchange here between Vivek Ramaswamy and Nikki Haley. It was the moment that stood out last night, if there was one. I mean, the whole thing was a disaster. But this was the viral moment that a lot of people thought was a good moment for Nikki Haley. I didn't feel that way, to say the least. Let me play it for you here as it was Vivek Ramaswamy talking about TikTok. Let me set it up for you first because everyone's just playing the viral clip. But I'm going to set it up for you and actually tell you what this back and forth was about. Vivek Ramaswamy was asked about TikTok. We know that TikTok is owned by the Chinese Communist Party because anything in China is owned, at least in part, by the government. There's 100 some odd million users here in the U.S. I don't have a TikTok. I won't do it. I'm not going to do it. But I know that millions of people in this country have a TikTok. And there's been a lot of conversation on whether or not TikTok should be allowed in the U.S. I don't believe it should be, by the way. And yeah, I think Instagram, Facebook, whatever, they'll fill that gap. It's not, what are we going to do without TikTok? Somebody else is going to fill that role. Instagram is basically TikTok as far as I can tell. But anyway, it's also a law now that on your government device, on your government phone, you cannot have TikTok on there. Because obviously the Chi-Coms are going to have access to anything on your phone, theoretically, if you've got TikTok on there. They could. So wisely, federal government's banned that. Well, Vivek Ramaswamy is going on TikTok with famous influencers like Jake Paul. And considering he's a guy who's been very firm on China, as many of these candidates have been, he was asked last night whether or not that's hypocritical. Here's part of that back and forth. Nikki Haley and Vivek Ramaswamy going back and forth on this.
We need to win elections. And part of how we win elections is reaching the next generation of young Americans where they are. So when I get into office, I've been very clear. Kids under the age of 16 should not be using addictive social media. We're only going to ever get to declaring independence from China, which I favor, if we actually win. So while the Democrats are running rampant, reaching the next generation 3-1, there's exactly one person in the Republican Party which talks a big game about reaching young people, and that's me. And
this is infuriating because TikTok is one of the most dangerous social media apps that we could have. And what you've got, I honestly, every time I hear you, I feel a little bit dumber for what you say because I can't believe.
A lot of people thought that was a good moment for Nikki Haley. I didn't. And I was highly complimentary of her the first go-around. I thought she had a good debate 4 weeks ago. Everyone's like, oh, yeah, she stuck it to Vivek. I mean, yeah.
Every time I hear you, I feel a little bit dumber for what you say.
By the way, I could play that a lot on this show, but I won't. Anyway, I didn't think that came off well. Like, I believe Vivek Ramaswamy comes off like a used car salesman at times, but I don't feel dumber listening to him speak. I actually think he's very bright. I just don't know how genuine he is. But I've never doubted the man's smarts. I think he's a very good speaker. He's very smooth, and he's obviously very bright. You don't become worth hundreds of millions of dollars as a first-generation American in this country before the age of 40 unless you're pretty darn bright. Like, I don't feel dumber. I may not care for the guy, but I don't feel dumber listening to him talk, John.
A script like that on daytime TV wouldn't have ended up with the two mashing after the debate.
Yeah.
So, that fiery.
It would have led to some great affair, daytime TV.
Star-crossed.
Yeah. We could write the script right here on KCMO.
Sure, why not? They're not back all fully to work yet.
Yeah.
Might as well get it in.
Yeah, we could pull double duty. We'll cross the picket lines of SAG-AFTRA.
Boom, boom, boom.
There you go. I just thought it was cheesy, but there's a lot of people who I get the knives are kind of out for Vivek because he acted like a turd in the first debate. He's like, you're all bought and paid for. Vote for me. I'm the new guy. Woo! But it was very much a turnoff. I thought he was much better last night. I thought that Vivek, as I noted earlier in the show, had some outstanding points last night, and he was not nearly as obnoxious as he was the first time around. So I liked the guy more after last night. And, Nikki Haley, who I was complimentary of the first time around, I thought she had a bad night on that front. And meantime, Ron DeSantis is flailing in the wind somewhere. No one knows where that guy's been. But his onstage presence is not good, and I really like him. I really thought that he was a guy who would make an incredible nominee, but he's not good in these settings. The best thing for him, you know what the best thing for him might be? Doing this debate with Gavin Newsom, where it's actually a real debate. It's not just a bunch of carnival barking up on a stage with no direction and no control from the moderators. That's all you had there. It was tough to watch. And then you had the Trumpster, who was in Michigan yesterday, and here's part of what he had to say.
And the workers of America are getting, to put it very nicely, screwed. You're getting screwed. Yesterday, Joe Biden came to Michigan to pose for photos at the picket line. But it's his policies that send Michigan auto workers to the unemployment line. He only came after I announced that I would be here. He announced quite a bit later. Spoke for a few seconds. Did you notice he spoke for a few seconds? And he had absolutely no idea what he was saying. What are we talking about?
Yeah, that was Trump last night. Everything he said there was spot on. Can't imagine why Sean Fain wanted no part of that, the UAW president. He didn't want his boy to be called out, by the Trumpster in Michigan last night. So, but once again, he's making points that nobody else, we're making them, but obviously his microphone's a lot bigger than ours, Trump's, and everything he said was spot on. And the UAW leadership, they don't want to hear that, right? Because they're political operators. They're not actually looking out for their workers. Let's be very clear. UAW leadership is not looking out for its workers. And Trump called them out on that very thing last night. Coming up in the 9 o'clock hour, we still have more to go through on last night's debate. We'll hear from you at 913-408-7710. And the Taylor Swift-Travis Kelce thing continues to lead the headlines, all coming up. All right, let me just spend, what do I want to do, 2 minutes on this, and then I'm going to move on. I know that oftentimes people hear what they want to hear, right? And that appears to be the case right now. I can't tell you how many text messages have come in on the show. Pete, you got to get on to Trump. You don't know what you're talking. You keep hating on it. Excuse me? Have you missed the part where all morning I've said literally the biggest winner last night is Donald Trump?
Yep.
I mean, how much more clear can I make it? It's like, unless I say that Donald Trump walks on water, oh, you're not on board. You don't. Oh, man. Oh, boy.
We've just identified a second strain of Trump derangement syndrome.
And it's coming from Trump supporters.
Right. It's the right who, if you say anything negative or don't say something positive, well, and even you have, they just don't hear it.
That's what I mean.
I get them on the phone sometimes, and I'm like, please.
Do you not hear what I'm saying?
The show's been on for 6 years. Your position on the man should be clear.
Yes.
I get we have new listeners.
Which is great. Exactly.
Right.
Voted for him twice. He's
there you go.
Going to be the nominee.
He
was the winner last night. He's still a human being, right? He's flawed. He's a human being. There's been one perfect human being in the history of mankind, and it's not him. It's not you. It's not me. Like, so I love every one of you. I say this from the bottom of my heart. But gosh, I don't want to be going on this rant right now, but I don't know how much more I can say. I predict he's going to be the nominee. I think he might have a nail-biter of a race. I wonder if he's got the best chance to win, but that's a conversation that normal people can have. Like, if we can't converse about that, and if I say that, and then you say, I knew it. Oh, boy, I don't know about you. Then you got to look in the mirror, with all due respect. And I say that in a loving way. You've got to look in the mirror. I don't know how many different ways I can make this point and say, we're all rowing in the same direction, right? We're all swimming the same way. That's what we're all doing. But I'm here to talk about all of these people and talk about last night and who had good nights, who had bad nights. Here I am. Half of you think I'm in the tank for DeSantis, and I just said all morning he had a terrible night. I've been spending the last few weeks criticizing Vivek Ramaswamy because sometimes he comes off like a cheesy car salesman. And last night I thought he had a great night. And here's the thing. I would love it, and I always appreciate it, when you call in and we converse about this. And we have adult conversations about this. That's the beauty of the show. But man, it's like, come on, we got to get on the same board here. 913-408-7710. I didn't expect to take that route here, but I just, I read the text line, and I'm a human being too here, and I get all bent out of shape because it's like and I get it. I understand that you can't listen to 4 hours of the show. I wish we all would. I wish you all would. But I understand no one or not many can. And that's oftentimes not how radio works. You're in, you're out, you're in the car, you're, maybe at home on Alexa, you're listening while you're working from home. Like, I get it. You're not listening to every single word over 4 hours. But if that's your big takeaway, I mean, sheesh. 913-408-7710. Mike's in Olathe. What's up, Mike? Good morning.
For the last few months, I felt the same way, and I got off Twitter because I got so tired of people that I used to agree with. I mean, that we were all Trump supporters twice, yet it's almost as if they sound so much like Democrats when they're attacking their own people who are deciding that we want the same policy, but we just like somebody else, whether it's DeSantis, who I like, or whoever it is. Why are they making it so hard? Just because we're going to have to vote for him if he's the nominee. There's no question about it, because you can't vote with the other side. I mean, look what's happening. But why? What is going on? What is the mental or lack of mental capacity in these people that they don't open their mind a little bit and say, okay, we get it? Because he literally has gotten worse. He really has. He's gotten almost the way he attacks fellow Republicans, almost Democrat-like, the way they attack our guys when they're running. And you just we're going to have to hold our noses this time and vote for a guy that before we didn't hold our noses for. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Thank you, Mike. I mean, I see what you're saying. I mean, I don't have a horse in the race. I'm just here to analyze the good, the bad, and the ugly. Right? That's what I've always done. I'm not here to tell you DeSantis is the guy. I'm not here to tell you Trump's the guy. I'm just here to say, hey, when they have good moments, I talk about them. When they have bad moments, they talk about them. That's what I do. And then you decide and you take this thing in whatever direction you want. But it's pretty amazing how sometimes this all ends up, just people hearing what they want to hear on stuff. Kim's in Kansas City. Hello, Kim.
Hello, Pete. How are you?
I am well, Kim. What's on your mind?
Well, people can. I was a two-time Trump supporter, and I supported him from the very beginning. I am just really, quite frankly, tired of him altogether. I just would prefer him to just be gone and out of the race. Like the caller before, I think he mentioned, we'll vote for him, but we don't have the same love we had. Chris Christie made some awesome points that I think the Republicans that are Trumpsters are forgetting about. Last night he said Trump he separated families, and that's exactly what he did during COVID. And during COVID, if we go back, he was the one that came out with the COVID vaccines. He's the one that stood on stage and took the COVID vaccine. I still haven't heard the man say the COVID vaccine isn't good. You say whatever you want, but let's go back. Who started the whole shutdown? And when I hear Mike Pence up there, it infuriates me. All I can hear is 5 days to the spread. I'm tired of it. And I think a lot of the Trumpsters have forgotten about that time, and they're still on board with this whole thing. This guy, in my opinion now, no wonder he was a Democrat back in the day, because that's what he is. He truly is that incarnate. I am tired of it, and let's move on. For God's sake, let's move on. I'm just so tired of people talking about it. Even when I hear him, even yesterday, you just played the clip of the auto plant. He rakes on my nerves. He really does. I'm just over it. I wish he would just go away. That's my opinion.
Thank you, Kim. I mean, here's the thing. We could do this, across the board with different people supporting different folks, right? I mean, we could do that. Now, I think Trump had a good night last night in Michigan, but that's just me. But I understand some of the other points. So, around and round we go. Steve in Kansas City, go.
Hey, Pete. Last night was kind of a disaster in the setup. I would say, first of all, I think Fox completely blew it on the setup. They just should have had Barney and Perino. The Univision woman was a complete disaster.
I agree.
Haley did a great job in the last debate, and last night she came off like a shrew. I mean, it was horrible.
Sorry, you cut out. Are you saying Nikki Haley had a good first debate and then didn't have a good one last night?
No, I think what happened was her handlers told her, well, we did some good things in the first debate. Let's double down in the second debate, and she did not come off as well. It's a telltale sign that everyone in the mainstream media is praising Nikki Haley. That's the huge tip off that they're doing their bidding. And like you said, I thought Ron DeSantis was okay. I mean, I'm not the biggest DeSantis fan, and obviously I love Vivek and I love Trump. And listen, I have an open mind on Vivek. I'm willing to listen to him. I'm willing to listen to what he has to say. But to these other Republicans, at a certain point, we've got to get past attacking each other and focus on who is going to be Donald Trump's vice president, which I believe is what these debates should be about. I don't think our former president will show. He doesn't need to show up at the third.
Well, listen, thank you, Steve. I have given Trump. I've supported him in not showing up. I wouldn't show up either if I was him. That's something else I've said, right? For the better part of a month and a half, is it not, John?
Yeah.
I mean, I've made that point for how many weeks in a row now? Like, some people, trust me, I get emails. You got to call out Trump for not... No, because if I was him, I wouldn't show up either. I wouldn't bother. 913-408-7710. Let's squeeze in Bridget in St. Joe. Hey, Bridget, good morning. What's up?
Good morning. I'm Trump all the way still.
I know. God bless you. That's great.
I don't even watch the debate.
Yeah.
My money and my family's money is on Trump. He's the quickest bet to turn our country back around.
Mm-hmm.
His policies were fantastic for this country. He'll get the military turned back around, get the wokeness out of the military. He's our quickest bet to bring common sense back into the country.
All right. I mean, Bridget,
I'm not taking my chances on anybody else.
All right. Thank you, Bridget.
All right. Thank you.
Listen, what we learned in the last 8 minutes is this. Everyone's got a different opinion right now. And that's okay. That's healthy. That's called, you know what that's called? America. So let's not attack people that feel differently from you. Let's not hurl slurs. Right, you're a rhino. No, you're a rhino. No, you're a rhino. You are. Just have a conversation. Be an adult. And you know what? Soon enough, the chips are going to fall in one direction. Overwhelmingly, it looks like those are going to fall in Donald Trump's favor. And then it's full steam ahead. That's it. That's it. All right. I need to talk some Taylor Swift. That's what I really want to get into here. I just can't do this anymore. I'm kidding. Well, this is going on for at least one more week. Oh, my goodness. Taylor Swift is going to be in the house at MetLife Stadium coming up on Sunday night when the Chiefs go to New Jersey to take on the Jets. Woo, boy, oh, boy. This blew up yesterday afternoon as Taylor Swift, of course, took the NFL by storm this past weekend when she showed up at Arrowhead Stadium to cheer on her new friend, Travis Kelce. The two were, of course, seen after the game. The game pulled in 24 million viewers. Most watched game of the weekend because, well, Taylor Swift was there. And now, apparently, she's going to be there on Sunday night. So you're going to have Sunday Night Football, the only game on. The Chiefs are going to be blowing out the Jets, by the way. So we're going to get more Taylor Swift cameos than we got last week. Do you agree with that, Mark?
I agree with that. And then you have the football purists that are going to be watching the game. And then you hear, "How dare you!"
I know.
That's going to be them.
I know.
All night on Sunday.
I know. You know, you want to talk about and those. Listen, I used to do sports radio. I love sports. I love football. But the notion that I'm going to get offended by watching Taylor Swift for 5 seconds between plays, why would that bother me? What else am I going to do? Look at these guys slapping each other's asses as they break the huddle? I mean, give me Taylor Swift to look at for 5 seconds in a box. I'm fine with that. It's not a big deal. I mean, who cares? I don't understand the outrage. I don't want to see. I don't want to see Taylor Swift. Who cares? There's 40 seconds between every play.
I'm wondering if I'm figuring we won't see the red and white jacket and the red and white shoes.
Oh.
I don't think it behooves her to wear that into the stadium.
You don't think? Okay, you think she'll be afraid of Jets fans?
More neutral. Well, yeah. I'm afraid of Jets fans, Giants fans.
They're a bunch of meatheads.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Well, so you think she'll kind of go neutral in terms of her outfit this weekend?
I'm wondering.
Well, now
thoughts on that?
I hadn't thought about that angle with the outfit.
Visiting fans at these stadiums, do you go in decked out?
See, here's the thing.
Maybe she can get away with it who she is, but I'm curious if she will.
That's the difference here.
Okay.
I think she'll wear Chiefs gear because it's not like Taylor Swift can hide, right?
No.
She's Taylor Swift.
Right. She's going to be on TV.
Everyone knows why she's there as well. She's there because she's friends with Travis Kelce.
Mm-hmm.
So she might as well just wear the red.
Own it, huh?
Own it.
Yeah.
Own it.
Okay.
You're going to be on TV. You might as well break. And if there's something else she's looking to promote, by the way, I'm sure she'll do that with her outfit in some way. Apparently, Taylor Swift outfits, there's you read into the outfit or something like that, from what I hear.
Oh, well, yeah, the way they dissect where the shoes and the jacket came from.
Yes.
And what else did we talk about? Oh, well, the Kelce jerseys.
Yes. Yeah. Even Travis Kelce's outfit now had some meaning
That's
about
right. He's wearing blue because I'm
what?
Yeah, her double album coming out in October, potentially, maybe.
Her remake of the old album, because that's what she's doing now, the Taylor's version or something. Yeah. Once again, I knew this thing was getting off the rails when 2 nights ago, Claire and I are getting ready for bed. Mom was doing Chloe. I'm sitting there with Claire. She's got a little cookie in her hand before bed, and she goes, Dad, is Taylor Swift going to marry Travis Kelce? And I'm like, where'd you hear that? And then she goes, I don't know. I'm like, this is officially out of control. This is off the rails. I got a 4-year-old asking me if Travis Kelce's going to marry Taylor Swift. I'm like, well, I think they're friends. Okay. Like, where are you hearing this stuff? At pre-K? Is this all the scuttlebutt in the pre-K classroom these days? Jeez. Larry in Prairie Village. What's up, Big Larry?
Well, I just wondered, have you read the Jason Whitlock column that came out a few days ago about Taylor being a Satanist and that it's going to lead Kelce down the primrose lane, and he thinks Kelce should get away from her? Did you hear that?
That does not surprise me from Mr. Whitlock, but no, I did not see the article or read it.
Well, it shocked me. I thought, where do they come up with this stuff? So I got online. Apparently, since 2016, there's been rumors of Taylor going down to the crossroads, making a deal with the devil, and that's why she's so successful. I mean, can you believe this? I mean, she's the Doris Day of our time, and I would have never thought she was a Satanist, but, she does gravitate toward the color red.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's all fitting.
You couldn't use something a little more recent than Doris Day for us here,
Doris Day is iconic, but
I don't know. Marilyn Monroe, I don't know.
That's
not
safe.
That's as recent as Doris Day.
Yeah. All right.
All right, well, keep it in mind. She could be, not what we think she is. So anyway.
Well, listen, nothing surprising me with Jason Whitlock. That's nonsense, but,
All right. Well, sure it is. But, I mean, there we go.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Well, all right. Interesting. Trust me, this town knows Jason Whitlock as well as anybody. That is, and I respect Jason Whitlock. I agree with him on a lot of things, but that's not one of them. But, got to get clicks somehow, I guess. 913-408-7710. We'll get to our caller of the day, plus you. And something else on this Swift-Kelce thing that's working out for both of them. I'll explain. It's tied into Google Trends next.
Attorney Joe Cordell. Business owners and professionals face special challenges in divorce court. In addition to everything else going on, they have to contend with allegations that they are earning more than they are, coupled with claims on their business or practice itself. Clients with assets